Yeah, let me
Look,
do that.
over here at Urban Cast, Representative Johnson, we try to keep it as real as we possibly can keep it.
You don't have to. You don't have to worry about combing hair or nothing, man. You
No,
got it.
no, I don't have very
We
much
don't
of
know
it.
if you white hair like I am or not.
But you can see the white here in that beard.
Yeah, women like that. I see. I see those commercials where people are putting white in their hair. I don't know why, but anyway, let's get started. Whatever
All
you want to
righty,
talk
that
about.
sounds like well, Representative Johnson. I definitely want to say good afternoon,
Good
or
afternoon.
good morning, really, and also to the audience out there. Today, we're going to delve into the crucial realm of criminal justice reform and government transparency, two issues that directly impact the lives of the folk here in Central Louisiana. With the recent passage of House Bill 103 mandating broadcasting of local government proceedings, and amidst the ongoing discussions surrounding crime legislation, we have a unique opportunity to engage in a meaningful dialogue and seek clarity on important matters. Representative Johnson, we appreciate your time and insight as we navigate these significant topics. How's everything going on down in Baton Rouge?
It's good, Jack. We're working hard, which is what we're supposed to be doing. I can tell you, I've been down here 5 years, and we have more things going on, and we're doing more of the job we should have been doing all along that I've ever seen. And I mentioned to you some days we don't know which day of the week it is. It's because we're pretty much focused. I've been to two meetings this morning and just came out of insurance committee meeting, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to go into another meeting, and then we come into session at 1 o'clock. So
Okay.
uh, it's good though. I think we're being productive,
Uh-huh.
and time will tell if it's being effective.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Well, Rep, tell me what inspired you to propose House Bill 103, and how do you envision it fostering greater transparency in local governance?
I have been concerned, as have many people, about the public's involvement in what goes on, whether it's our cities or our parish or our state. We're so busy. All
Hmm.
of us we're running kids or grandkids here, there, or yonder. Uh, a lot of folks have kind of gotten into the mode of being home a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And so we don't go to the public meetings much anymore. I know from my perspective, as I've been going to school board meetings for 35 years, the room used to be full for meetings, and now there are less people. You go to a city council meeting, there's just two or three of the same people every month.
Hmm.
And it's not that people don't care, but it's just not a priority. It's a hassle. It's they have less time to devote to being involved in the issues. I think some folks have gotten disenchanted. They feel like their voice doesn't count. They're disengaged from the process, and they don't like most of what's going on. They don't know everything that's going on, but what they do know of it, they don't necessarily like.
Hmm.
Uh, the world changed a few years ago with the news media. And I suspect that's why you're so successful, because you have come into the void. But whereas there used to be one person that was in charge of going to every single city council meeting,
Hmm.
one person that was in charge of going to every single committee and meeting of the police jury, there was one person that was the education beat for the town talk.
Hmm.
That doesn't exist anymore.
That's
And
right.
it's not unique to Central Louisiana. Unless you come to like Baton Rouge or New Orleans, where there are big papers or locally owned papers, they've
Hmm.
just completely cut that out. Same with television. You used to have television, and Jack, I don't know if you remember, but our radio stations actually had news departments.
That's
They
right.
actually had a full-time news department.
That's right.
And so you had information being given to people, so they were engaged. There might be one issue that they were interested in, and that may be the only issue they cared about,
Hmm.
but they got involved.
That's right.
If you've noticed elections, there used to be 6 or 8 people run for a police jury or a city council or a state police jury position. You're
Hmm.
lucky if you have 2 or 3 people run. It's because they've become detached from what's going on. And I thought we can't do anything about the media's lack of involvement. I
Mhm.
appreciate the involvement that y'all have, but even y'all are strained to cover everything that's going on in
You're right.
a mid-size area like Rapides Parish.
That's right.
So I thought, what do we have available? And I got to thinking about what we did during COVID.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of strange that you learn lessons from different things. You know, we learned about uh, things during 9/11. We
Mhm.
learned things during COVID. And what we learned is when people don't have a choice, but that they have to make their meetings public, they
Mhm.
have to make them available,
That's
that they could do it. And everybody had their meetings online for us to watch. Now, the quality changed from one place to the other,
right. Right.
but you know, I would look around at the different ones and you'd have 100, you'd have 116, you might have 75, but you always had people watching those, many more people than go to the meetings.
Right.
And so I have become aware of what you were doing and the fact that things are not likely to change. What I do see is a decline in the number of people that vote.
Mhm.
For
That's
the
right.
same reasons they don't go to meetings, they don't vote. They don't feel like their vote matters, or they don't feel like they really know what's going on, and it won't do any good anyway.
That's right.
That seems to be the feeling that a lot of people have. We don't have an absence of people involved with opinions and involvement at the state level. I get an average of 100 or more emails every day on different issues that we're dealing with.
Mhm.
They can watch every committee we have.
That's
They
right.
can watch every floor vote we have. They can see and they can respond to what we're doing. Now, we don't have the ability to hear from them during the meetings unless they're here,
Mhm.
but we can go back and read the emails or read the comments. I try to post some of it, uh, and 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 I think that fosters more involvement in the democratic process, or at least that's my hope.
Right.
So I was a little bit disheartened when after COVID, after we quit coughing as much and we were
Mhm.
able to get out, how quickly some of the municipalities and some of the police juries around the state, some of the school boards around the state yanked their feed. They just stopped doing it.
Right. Right.
And we're fortunate in Rapides Parish in that the City of Alexandria meetings, I think their committee meetings and their regular meetings are on television.
Mhm.
The police jury, I think, is still online. The school board has been online for a long time, and you can watch them live and archive.
Mhm.
And the town of Ball, which is a small municipality,
That's right.
they have done it from before COVID. They continue to do it.
That's
And
right.
so I talked with my colleagues in the House and in the Senate and just said, would this be a good thing to open up the government we pay for our people to be able to see it where they are? And where they are is at home. They might be at work, working a double shift or a night shift. They might be at a ball game and all they can do is look at their phone.
That's right.
That's where they are. And they're busy. Let's make what our dollars, where our tax dollars go, and where our decision makers are performing the duties we ask them to perform. Let's make it available for us to see. And that's all my bill does. It
Mhm.
makes, and I didn't do it for little small towns because I didn't want to. Now, that may be something we're going to do.
Right.
But I put for municipalities of 10,000 and greater and parish governments of 25,000 and greater.
Mhm.
And LMA endorses, the Louisiana Municipal Association endorses this.
Mhm.
Uh, it passed out of the House, I think 101 to 0.
That's right. Unanimous.
Everybody. This is a bipartisan thing.
Right.
Uh, Black, white, Republican, Democrat, Independent, everybody agrees that the right and the opportunity to be involved in government is important. So, beginning August 1st, if I pass this through the Senate,
Uh-huh.
you will be able to go and watch live, unedited, live, the broadcast of the committee meetings, which, if you know, and I do know that you know, a
Mhm.
lot of the real discussion the real argument, the real debate is in committee. It's
Is
not
in
on the
committee.
main meeting.
That's right.
And even fewer people go to the committee meetings.
Mm-hmm.
This will make it available for you to watch. Mine does not make you have to archive it. But
Mm-hmm.
if they put it on Facebook or YouTube,
That's right.
which are free,
That's right.
then it is archived automatically.
Right.
Most of the municipalities and the parish governments have a web page.
Mm-hmm.
And for a little bit of initiative and maybe a few dollars, they can set up an archive on their web page where you can go watch it at other times. But my initial bill does not require that they archive it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back next year and try to do more with it. But my goal is really just pretty simple. It allows you, I mean, technology has so many downfalls. This is one of the positives.
That's one of the positives, and the real cool thing about it is the idea that it could be implemented in such a low cost kind of environment. With basic tools that you might have right at your disposal. Like you said, quality. But even if you come into the situation of saying, hey, you got to archive it, you could dual feed, you could send the signal to both YouTube and Facebook, and they become the archive. Just the likelihood of both of them going down and you can't get to it. But
Hannah Ball actually used an iPhone and did it for a period of time, and it was fine.
it's
And I'll tell you the surest sign of this is the fiscal note that every time you have a bill that may have a cost,
mm-hmm,
we have a fiscal department that has to look at the bill and see what would it cost.
mm-hmm.
They recognize that it could be virtually free. It was an indeterminate number. Now,
Yeah,
larger cities like Alexandria and Pineville, they can afford to buy a $250 camera, or they can buy a $2,500 camera if they
that's right.
want to.
Mm-hmm.
And all you got to do is set it up in line, and you don't want it edited. You can make it pretty, but you don't have to make it edited.
Mhm.
And so the only opposition I've gotten, which Jack, you'll kind of appreciate, someone in South Louisiana, not in Central Louisiana, said, well, we sometimes say things in these committees that we don't want people to hear. And I said, that's exactly why we need this, because there shouldn't be anything said in secrecy.
That's right.
You're spending our tax dollars. You're making decisions that affect us, that affect our families, that affect our livelihoods, that affect our children. Why should we not hear everything? We're not looking to find fault. We just want to know what's going on.
That's right. That's right.
That's really all it is. And so I think that's why it passed without opposition. I've got senators asking to co-sponsor it. I think it will pass in the Senate. The governor's already said he will sign it.
Okay, cool. That certainly sounds good. I will say this, Rep. The one thing that is actually happening here in the city of Alexandria is the idea of the requesting of supporting documentation for agenda items, and this kind of goes directly in opposition to what you're proposing, and that is for the constituency to be um, informed, and know the details, have the ability to ask informed questions. And the details of agenda items are in that supporting documentation. And you represent the Rapides Parish School Board, and the Rapides Parish School Board does an awesome job of making sure that the public is aware of the agenda and the supporting documents. And, we would think that the city would keep with that idea as well. But it appeared to be moving backwards. But hopefully over the next couple of days, they'll realize and say, hey, we need to make sure that information gets out.
And I didn't know that, and I haven't, that's not in my district, so I'd be hesitant to comment. But I know that the laws provide that those documents are part of government action you should be able to get.
Mm-hmm.
I do contain within my bill a requirement that they post the agenda and post it online with the same rules
Mm-hmm.
that they do presently, where they physically put it on the building.
Right.
What I hope in the future is to add a provision that also will require that they post the supporting documentation and the agenda of all meetings at the local libraries. If they can't put it online, put it at the local libraries. Same with the minutes.
Transparent.
And just put it out there. I mean, it's our it would be like, I move it down to a smaller thing. It would be like my church.
Mm-hmm.
If my church decides we want to buy all new pews,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to show up one Sunday and find out that my money that was supposed to go to Lottie Moon or Georgia Barnett missions is being spent and then I can't find out about it. That's not how we do it in the church.
Right.
Why shouldn't it be the same way with our government? And why should things be a surprise? There shouldn't be. And rarely should there be emergency meetings to spend money unless there's a crisis.
It's a Christ, right?
But if it is an emergency meeting, we'll be able to see it. You won't be able to hide it at noon when people are going to lunch. It will be when you can see it.
That's right.
So that's all this is. I get kind of passionate about it because it's one of those simple solutions for a complex problem.
That's right.
And what do they say? Sunshine is the best disinfectant. I don't know who said that, but it applies to this. And there's so much good that's going on. I don't want it to make it sound like I'm trying to get a bunch of people to go find bad. There's so much good that's going on that we don't necessarily know about.
That's right.
This gives our elected officials also a chance to profile the fact that, hey, we're doing this that's good and this is good, and not just the incident that happens or so that's what this is about.
Okay, shifting the focus to criminal justice.
Yes.
We just came out of a special session on criminal justice reform. What are your thoughts on the current state of crime in Louisiana, and what specific changes do you believe are necessary? I know a lot of changes have already been made, but what do you fundamentally believe that will help us address any existing shortcomings?
What I fundamentally believe is that the state of Louisiana has a tremendous crime problem. Central Louisiana, and I don't care which side of the river, Central Louisiana has a tremendous crime problem. The solution is not in a bill that I pass in Baton Rouge. It's not in a bill you pass in Rapides Parish. We can do something to maybe make it safer for people. Maybe we can add some deterrent, but my honest belief is that the problem is more in the family. That's what I believe. I believe the problem is in our community. We used to take care of each other's kids. If my next door neighbor, if mama or daddy wasn't home and I did something wrong, my next door neighbor had permission to take care of disciplining me. We have too many homes that don't have mamas and daddies. I know one of the things that breaks my heart, having worked with the school system so much, is we have so many children who are technically called homeless because they don't go home to the same home every day. We have an absence of mentors that I think I've worked on. I started a task force to try to do something about it. We don't have good role models. We don't have enough good role models in our community to help these young people be guided in the right direction. So what do? They look for love. They look for acceptance. They look for attention where they can find it. And sometimes it's bad people who want to use them or bring them into a lifestyle that's prone to violence, that's prone to crime. And so, I wish our churches were more involved. I know that there are some good efforts going on, but I wish we would look at it at the core level. And I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but I honestly believe that we can do everything in the world down here, or even in government. It's going to take our citizens. It's going to take awareness. It's going to take a willingness to say, we've got to find out why is this young man or this young lady committing this crime? Why we got young people shooting one another? Why is the level of disrespect for one another or for ourselves not there with our young people? And I honestly believe it's family and God. And there are those here that would try to legislate that, and I'll vote for it. But do I believe that legislation can do that? No, I don't. I think it has to start in the home. It has to start with men like you and me and women who are willing to. We can't change the families, but we've got to step in the gap to help the young people who don't have that family and give them a different route. We see, and I'm not trying to give him a plug because he's kind of in the news, but Coach Smith is a good example.
Hmm.
How many people has he mentored? I have coaches in my life. Now, I had a mom and dad that were home every night, but
Mhm.
I know boys who were on some of the athletic teams that didn't, and the coaches acted as a mentor, and they're in a solid place now where they might not have been had they not stepped into that. And the world is moving so fast. There's so many opportunities to get in trouble that I didn't have. There's so many opportunities to get into a life of sin that had it been made available, maybe I would have. I don't know. But I had a mom and daddy that would whip my behind if I stepped out of line, if they knew about it, and a community that made sure they knew about it. But the world has changed. And, family and God is not as much a priority, and it's not as much there. And any kind of change that involves family, you can't do overnight.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I would like to have that dialogue. I know that I've spent a lot of time, I've spent a lot of money. Sheila and I both have traveled because we tried to start mentoring programs in the schools.
Mhm.
And not just, hey, this is going to have a mentoring. We were trying to do a parish wide where we got money for it. We got people that know how to do this, where we could affect young lives regardless of whether they had a mom and daddy to go home to. And we spent a year. Judge Cook and various people in the community came together. We put together a plan, and I think the leader in me was started at Pineville Elementary, which is a tremendous program. And we've had a few individual churches that have started some programs that have seen some results. But parish wide, we just haven't been able to get it off the ground. I don't think that's the question you were asking me, but
No, no, no. I
that's
think.
where the problem is. We've got to recognize that whether you lived, I grew up in Acadian Village, whether
Mhm.
you live in 2024 Acadian Village or whether
Mhm.
you live in Charles Park,
That's right.
that child has a connection,
Right.
and we've got to take care of that child. And I
You.
don't care if it's a rich kid's problems or a
Uh-huh.
poor kid's problems.
Right.
They're going to affect our community. They're going to affect crime. They're going to affect the life that we have for all of us in our parish. And we can build a bunch of prisons, but it's not going to eliminate the core problem.
That is so correct. And as I talk to community stakeholders, that rep, one of the things that people point out consistently is that here in Central Louisiana, we've had tons of industry organizations that have left our community.
Yep.
And we've not done a very good job, at reattracting replacement organizations to come into the community. Therefore, creating a situation where whereas in the past we had jobs that were livable wage jobs that created downstream jobs and all of that kind of good stuff. But right now, we are liking that. We just don't have it in our community like we had in years past. I mean, when you think about it, we had the Dressers, the International Papers, the McKessons, the Baker Manufacturers, the AT&T, and the list goes on. And all of those have been, have left our community, but they have also left it. England Air Force Base, they've left us in a situation where we've not done a lot to reattract those living wage jobs. So, therefore, that impact has definitely impacted the family. It has put right, and so it seems like here specifically in the Alexandria area, policy uh, over overreaching policy has not done a real good job at attracting and being very competitive with those companies coming into our community. And so at the end of the day, one of the things that we see is the byproducts of where we are, and that's the high crime that we have here in Central Louisiana. and we know it's going to take that entire village to start working together. The family, leadership, attracting jobs, and things of that nature, all working together.
Jack, what you're talking about is a cycle.
Uh-huh.
We lose a business and the community is affected. Then it
Hmm.
becomes harder to bring in other business because they come in and what do they see? The first 4 minutes of KLB News is what? Mugshots. Every night, it's mugshots. They drive down our streets and they see that there's trash. What's happened is we've pulled in ourselves. I'm gonna be safe in my house. I'm gonna be safe where I am. I got mine. I think that's
Mm.
what you said earlier.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily, we may have in some ways given up. I
That's
mean,
right.
but I can tell you, I think there's a new reality that I'm working for, that'll give us some hope
Hmm.
because the problems that I've met with these people trying to get business to come to Central Louisiana, you want to know the reasons why they're getting them in Baton Rouge, they're getting them in Shreveport, they're getting them in areas. In Central Louisiana, they say there's three things. We have a perceived problem that we don't promote ourselves. We don't believe in ourselves anymore. You and I know that we've got great potential
Oh,
in Central Louisiana. We got people that want to work. I
that's
know I want my kids to live here, not somewhere else.
right.
But the perception is, and the reality is, we have a crime problem.
Hmm.
We have a problem with kids being able to, applicants being able to pass a drug test. And you know what some businesses are doing to hire people? They're eliminating the drug test.
That's right.
We have a problem with kids being applicants being able to pass a test that says eighth grade math and English. Those are things that I think we're working on and we're seeing some development on.
Right.
But I think we've got to start believing in ourselves.
That's right. I agree.
And although there's negative, there's a lot of positive.
Yeah.
There is a lot of positive. And I think it just becomes when the first thing you see on the news is bad stuff. You don't think people are Googling in to see what Alexandria, what do they see? Or Pineville, what do they see?
Hmm.
We got to tell the better story.
Yeah.
And we got to be involved in trying to do something, not at the state level, although we need to be doing our part.
Right.
But we at the local level need to be doing some of the things that I see are going on in some of the churches, which is let's get to the heart of the problem with our young people. Let's start believing in what we can do. Let's start promoting who we are in a positive way.
Hmm.
And I will tell you that there are businesses, there are things at the state level we can do to make it more attractive to business statewide. And we're doing that.
Right. Right.
And we're doing that.
Hmm.
There are things that we can do on the crime level that from the outside looking in will say, well, that should be a more positive thing for us to do to come to Louisiana.
Hmm.
And and then we do some things education wise, which I think our Rapides Parish School Board is really doing some good things, uh, and some things that our ranking shows that we're getting better. We can always be much better,
That's right.
but it's going to take more than a vote on a policy or a vote on something. It's got to take more than that.
You, you,
And
you
and you can't just say I paid my taxes. They're going to take care of it.
right. Right.
And you get to a certain age, you're kind of tired of all that. The younger generation, when I say the younger generation, the young professionals, the folks who volunteer, we got to see more of that. It's hard to find volunteers for boards. It's because they're busy and because they've lost a little bit of the hope and the vision of what greatness we can have in my hometown.
Representative Johnson. The one thing, one light that shines bright here is our educational system, and I'll say
Mhm.
not only the Rapides Parish School Board, but also CLTCC,
Absolutely.
Louisiana Christian University, LSUA, but even the business colleges, Unitech, uh, you know. Uh, all of the educational system, because we are actually creating those. we are producing the resources. We're just exporting them to other areas, and we need the jobs to
You
come
got to
from.
hang on to them.
Yeah, we got to
You
hang
know,
on.
a young man or a young woman can go to CLTCC in a year or two and make more than a starting lawyer.
That's right. That's right.
They can do it, and the people are trying to hire those folks. We
Right.
just got to tell that story. The
Oh yeah.
tremendous job that Jimmy Sawtelle is doing,
Yeah.
and Paul
Absolutely.
Carell's doing at LSUA, and
Hmm.
that our high schools are doing. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many good things we got to promote,
That's right.
and at the same time, we got to be addressing the needs that our young people and our failings
Hmm.
on our young people to try to save them. I mean, yeah, I don't want them holding me up at the grocery store, but I don't want that young life lost.
That's right.
And when I say lost, I don't mean necessarily killed. I don't want them to just have no hope.
That's right. That's right.
There's a lot of people in Louisiana, and particularly in central Louisiana, that want to embrace those young people, give them a life, because, hey, if they're successful, you and me got somebody to take care of us
Yeah. That's right.
down the road.
That's the objective. I
So,
tell you. In context of the crime legislation, how do you balance the need for the tougher measure with the imperative to ensure fairness and justice for all individuals within the legal system?
well, I know some of the crime stuff that we did were similar to what we talked about before we came on here.
Hmm.
We want to be sure to also look at the victims. We want
Hmm.
to make sure victims are aware of what's going on. We want to create less victims.
Hmm.
Uh, Mixed feelings about it, but everyone I talked to, everyone I heard said so many of our young people that are committing crimes are 17 years old. So many of them. And some of the 18, 19, 21 year olds are using the 17-year-olds to commit the crimes because they were under a different set. The law changes that. 17-year-olds are now considered adults in violent crimes that they commit. Uh, a more strict penalty doesn't eliminate the rehabilitation that we want to have happen.
Hmm.
But for those of the people, those of the community that aren't committing crimes, we want to try to protect them. And in some ways, that requires you to get the people that are hardened criminals off the streets, try to rehabilitate them, but get them off the streets. The governor's package included stricter penalties, stricter enforcement on good time, so that it's not automatic. Too many times people are saying that someone broke in their house, assaulted them, and they see them next week still on after they've been arrested back on the street. The laws that change will try to prevent that. It makes more of it mandatory for the courts. Now that's going to come at a cost, and that's something we're going to have to address. But long term, I think the bills that were passed were more in line with the trend of tougher crime legislation, more emphasis on victims, and we're going to have to deal with the rehab side of it too, because we don't want to just warehouse people. Some people might, but
Hmm.
we don't want to just warehouse people. We'd like to save them. We'd
That's
like to rehabilitate them so they can come out. And then when they do come out, find ways to get them into a productive tax-paying situation so they can help sustain our community. And all of it should work together. What you're hearing about mainly right now is the tough on crime legislation,
right.
and I think it'll have an effect. Let's see long term what it is, but I don't think it can be the only answer.
Okay. Considering the diverse perspective within our state, how do you plan to engage with constituents and stakeholders to gather feedback and insight on, if these new laws that are now on the book, the changes to the existing laws on the book, how do you measure and make sure that they're working? The other thing is in thinking about the idea with our young folk, and you mentioned the 17-year-olds. Just last week in Rapides Parish, we had a 17-year-old that was impacted by some of the new changes. One of the things I see from our side of the media thing is that this engagement piece or this communication of these new changes, it sometimes it has a very a huge lag in the information getting down to these young people about what these new laws are. how again, how do you propose we make sure we engage the young folk and let them know?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I had a long discussion with Representative Pat Moore from Monroe, who is one of the most compassionate, thoughtful representatives we have
Mm-hmm.
in the state. She had the same question. She says, how do I let my young people, how do I let my people know about all these laws? Because
Mm-hmm.
there'll be a stack like this. How do we know?
Mm-hmm.
She and I are putting together some efforts using some state resources
Mm-hmm.
to educate the young people. Now, I do it from town hall meetings, but
Mm-hmm.
my district is maybe different than her district.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it in 3 or 4 town hall meetings. She actually goes into the projects in her area with
Mm-hmm.
flyers and information to basically say, hey, this is the way it used to be. You can't do this now.
Right.
But those laws are going into effect right now. So there is a void between, knowledge and output. But we're recognizing that it's not enough to pass the laws. We've got to communicate to the people. Now I send out a summary to everybody in my district at the end of the session. They'll get that. We're hoping to do more public information things through the media and town hall meetings. How we measure the effect is something we're requiring the departments to do every year, is to give us reports every year on what the results have been and are the actions we've taken being productive. So, I mean, that's one way of measuring it. Another way of measuring it is to ask the people that live in the area, is this making a difference? Is this making any difference? Or are we just pushing it down the road? Um, and so that's you ask a good question. It's being discussed, and I'm concerned about that too.
Yeah, I'm definitely concerned about it, Rep, because a lot of times, we assume that, just putting it in that space of traditional media, i.e., radio, television, print, is getting to everyone, but clearly it's not getting to everyone.
How do you deter somebody from a criminal act if they don't know it's a criminal act?
Right, and the age
Yeah.
old one is, you got a lot of criminals that were using minors to do things because they knew to like, the idea that minor would get a stiff penalty, it wasn't there, and so they were kind of like casualties of war or whatever. And but now, given what we know now, what are we going to do to make sure that these really young minors know about these changes, and they're told that, at 17 you're going to be treated just like an adult for a bad crime or what have you.
The
uh,
point's not to catch them. The point's to get them not to do it.
right, yeah, be proactive about it.
But they got to know it.
They
I'm
got to.
hoping we do that through our schools. Of course, a lot of the 17-year-olds we're talking about aren't in school.
That's right, that's right.
But let me tell you, Jack, what I found out. Some of the people that are committing crimes
Hmm.
I'm not talking about, hey, I did one thing. I'm talking about the habitual young criminals.
That's
They know the law better than I do, and I'm a lawyer.
right. That's right.
I mean, no kidding, they do.
Right.
But and I don't want to cut this off because I'm enjoying this, but
Yeah.
I've got someone here that I need to meet
Oh,
with. I'd love to do this again,
okay.
and I'd
Well,
love to invite you to come down to the Capitol.
all right. Well, listen, that was my last question, as a matter of fact. So we can go ahead
Yeah.
and close it out. It's perfect timing. As we
Okay.
conclude,
Thank you for spending time with me today. I enjoyed it.
oh,
I get
no,
something
no,
out of this also.
yeah, anytime. And, I did reach out to Senator Luno, Representative Laverdan as well. He said that he was a little bit busy, but on the same token, I
Yeah.
do truly appreciate you carving out this little time in between lunch and break and all that kind of good
But
stuff.
you might like coming down here and following us around for a day and just see what an average day is like.
Uh,
It's not like people think. It's
right.
not like what I thought.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm gonna hold you. I'm gonna hold you to that
I
one.
would
Then.
like that, but let's do it pretty soon because I think this governor's trying to put us into a constitutional convention in a couple of weeks. So
Uh-huh.
need to get down here in the next couple of weeks before that happens, just so we can give you a kind of an idea of what. And of course, you can follow everything we do in committee and
Absolutely.
online.
Hmm.
At, I think it's lawledge.com.
That's right. That's right.
Uh, and I would invite you to do that. And not only what goes on today, but what went on for the last 3 or 4 years.
That's absolutely correct. Well, Representative Johnson, we definitely want to say thank you. Keep up
Thank
with
you.
and we definitely want to say thank you for your time today. We realize you are busy, but anytime you have something you think the constituents need to know, feel free to
Yes, sir.
reach out to us.
Well,
And
thank you.
you're so
You've got my number. Don't hesitate to call me anytime.
absolutely, sir. Well, you have a great day.
And now that I've learned that, hey, I can just start filming and sending it to you, I'll start doing. If anything breaks out in the house, I'll do that and send it to you.
All you got to do is look. We couldn't do it without the people who support us,
I
Representative.
know more about what's going on by watching y'all than anything else.
We definitely appreciate that. And again, anytime you need to, talk to our audience of, we have only a few people over here following us, right at 47,000 now, but feel free to, come talk to them anytime.
Thank you, Jack. It's very good being on here with you.
Oh, you're so welcome, sir. You have a great day.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.